I remember when Bob couldn't speak privately, much less in public. And suddenly he's become a threat. You know, you don't want to follow him anymore. I came home from school once. This is when I was in high school, and I said to my father that I had been elected president of the student body, and he thought about it for a second, and he said, "That's wonderful." He said, "How much does it pay a year?" And I was thinking about that as Bob was talking. I thought, I wonder what benefit you get with being in the hall. How much does it pay a year? My father would want to know how much it pays. I am, of course, nothing if I'm not my father's son. And when my father was elderly and it was clear he was dying, he sat me down one day and he said, one of the great shames of my life, he said, was that I was very emotional. He said, when your grandmother died, and I was in charge of the funeral arrangements, and I was vulnerable, and the undertaker persuaded me to buy this very expensive coffin. And he said, I've never forgiven myself. He said, I stood there at the side of the grave, and instead of thinking about my mother, he said, all I was thinking about is how they were putting all that money into the ground, and I'd never see it again. And so he said, I want you to promise me. He said, I want you to promise me that when I die, you go to see the undertaker, because your mother, he said, won't be able to take care of this. He said, you go to see the undertaker. He said, I want you to do two things. On the one hand, he said, I want you to ask the man, how much is your most expensive? Show me your best coffin. And he said, that'll be $25,000. And he said, write down how much it costs when he tells you, and then say, I want to see your cheapest coffin, and that'll be about $300, a little pine box. He said, I want you to bury me in the $300 coffin, the cheapest coffin you can get. Bury me in the cheapest coffin. Subtract what you pay for the coffin from the price of the expensive coffin, and give the spread, give the difference to charity in my name. So I said, gee, I said, okay. I said, what charity? He said, what do I know about charity? He said, I never gave anything to charity. He said, that's your line of work. So I promised I would do it, and he did die, and I told my mother about it, and she said, if that's what he wants, do it. So I called in the vice president for development at the university. Bob and I were at the University of Hartford, and I tell him the story, and I say, I got a check here for you for $24,700. And go figure out something to do with it. So he goes away, and he comes back, and I say, what'd you decide? He said, well, we put it into the fund for the new theater. I said, okay. And later on, he comes to me, he said, look, we're putting up a plaque, all right, a plaque with your father's name on it, and he said, I'm putting it up right next to the box office, so that whenever people come to the box office, they'll see the plaque that you're memorializing your father. I said, fine. So a year passes, and my mother says, look, we have to do something in Dad's memory. The anniversary's coming up. I say, okay. So instead of going to the cemetery, we invited everybody to the campus, and we had an unveiling ceremony of the plaque at the university theater. Now, I had an aunt. She's now gone too, may she rest in peace, and she and my father never got on. So we have this unveiling ceremony, and the rabbi speaks, and I speak, and my mother speaks, and I can't remember. I don't think Bob wanted to speak. And now we're walking back across campus from the theater to the house where Francine is going to serve, cake and drinks and stuff. And my aunt says to my mother, she says, I never knew Oscar was so fond of the theater. So my mother knew a dig when she heard it. So she said, oh, the theater, no, he didn't have any affection for the theater. It was box offices. He loved box offices. So when I go, we're going to put a plaque up next to the box office at the Smith Center. People are going to say, we didn't know Trachtenberg was such an athlete. Nah, he loved box offices. I'm obviously very grateful. Some years ago, when my kids were tougher even on me than they are now, we were talking about my various accomplishments, and I pointed out that I had not, in fact, been elected to Phi Beta Kappa as an undergraduate. I was elected subsequently when I was a dean at Boston University. And as this conversation went on, I pointed out that I actually had never earned a doctorate, that I had a law degree, but I never earned a PhD. I didn't have a real doctorate. And here I was a university president, but I had gotten 20 honorary doctorates. So I didn't feel completely fraudulent when people called me doctor. And my son was listening to this, and he said, "Let me ask you something, Dad." He said, "Your hair, is that your own?" So I'm a member of Phi Beta Kappa. I didn't get into it. I'm a called doctor, and I never got a doctorate. And now I'm in the Athletic Hall of Fame. America, as my mother used to say, is a wonderful country. If you play your cards right, anything's possible. I'm the only thing standing between you and dinner, and I'm going to let you have your meal. Thank you all. I'm honored. I really am honored to be associated with 4 wonderful colleagues who are going to be inducted in a few minutes, and with the 100 and whatever it is people who have preceded me over the years since 1959. And I look forward to the next 150 years, and I'm going to keep coming to these dinners, but I'm not going to continue buying table after table after table. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it.